The Predator Annihilator is the anti-tank variant of the Predator tanks, of course mainly known for their long use by the Space Marines, as well as some other forces of the Imperium. They have seen service since the Horus Heresy. Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and today we're covering the Predator Annihilator, the anti-tank weapon of the old Space Marines, if you will. The Predator Annihilator is of course a light tank coming in at 130 points, the same as its Destructor cousin. It moves 10 inches, its toughness 10, 3 plus save, 11 wounds, 6 plus leadership, and OC3. Fairly standard for the cost, but not necessarily a bad thing, as it is still very resilient to all but the heaviest of anti-tank weapons, though things like buffed autocannons could really give it some trouble, and las cannons of course will blow holes in it very efficiently. On the pintle, you can of course have a combi bolter or combi weapon. The combi bolter, rapid fire 2, 24-inch range, 2 attacks, a hit on 3, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1. Said it one time, and I'll say it a million times. It's good to light anti-infantry, and not much more. The combi weapon, rapid fire 1, devastating wounds, anti-infantry 4+, 24-inch range, 1 attack, hits on 4, strength 4, AP 0, and damage 1. Much worse than the combi bolter. Leave this one at home. You can, of course, mount a Hunter Killer on it, which is one shot at 48-inch range, one attack that hits on 2, strength 14, AP 3, and damage d6. A nice little anti-tank one-shot weapon. However, if you ask any player, they will say it always misses because it feels like it always does. Then it, of course, has the Predator las cannon, which is twin-linked at 48-inch range, one attack that hits on 3s at strength 14, AP 3, and damage d6 plus 1. This is at least very efficient at wounding vehicles, though with only one attack it is quite prone to missing, unless you are buffing it or aim it at the Oath of Moment target. Then on the sponsons, you can take either a heavy bolter or a las cannon. The heavy bolter has sustained hits 1, 3 attacks that hit on 3s, 36-inch range, strength 5, AP 1, and damage 2, and the las cannons are 1 attack that hit on 3s, 48-inch range, strength 12, AP 3, and damage d6 plus 1. Of course, the las cannons are the better option here. As much as I like the heavy bolters, they just don't really compare to the las cannons, and also the las cannons interact with the special rule. In terms of melee weapons, fairly standard tank thing, 6 attacks, hits on 4, strength 6, AP 0, damage 1. Things don't want to be in melee, obviously, though it might squash a guardsman or two if the need arises. It has Deadly Demise D3, which is of course not too insane, but of course could do some damage to your lines. So make sure you're wary of that. When it's getting on low health, it might be time to move it out of position, as is to not shower your army with mortal wounds on an unlucky roll. Then, of course, the Annihilator's ability is Annihilator, which lets you reroll a damage roll of 1 when targeting monsters or vehicles. Now, this is, of course, where it's the most important, though this isn't as impactful as it may seem, as not only do you have to roll a 1 for it to do anything, you are also only not gaining that much damage. I believe the math's out, you're only actually getting a half a wound more on average in terms of damage. Not bad, will save a command point from time to time, but overall is not quite as impactful as the Destructor special rule. And speaking of the Destructor, which I will keep comparing it to, the Annihilator unfortunately lacks the main draw of that tank, which is, of course, its general purpose nature and its suite of various weapons. This, of course, means mainly the autocannon and then the sponson las cannons, which gives it a general purpose role, where the Annihilator is a specialist tank. And in terms of being a specialist tank, it doesn't compete very well with the Gladiator Lancer, mainly. And in its own price bracket, I'd say the Ballistus is much better, mainly just because its las cannon has more shots, as well as a slightly better special rule. Of course, though, I don't think it's outrageously awful. I don't think it's as bad as Reavers. However, if you do want to bring a Predator tank, I would recommend just running it as a Destructor, mainly because the Destructor will usually do more damage to tanks. And I already mentioned this earlier, but its special rule, while handy for saving a command point here and there, is unfortunately nothing special, and won't actually average you that much more damage than if you just kind of stayed with the 1. You only on average get about 1 more pip of damage. I think a main buff for this thing would be to drop it by 10 to 15 points, and also to give its main las cannon 2 shots to make it less swingy, which things like the Repulsor and the Lancer don't deal with, as they natively get 2 shots, which is a big deal for these big anti-tank weapons. And of course, those tanks have much better damage results if they do punch through. Unfortunately, out of the Predator tanks, this one just lags far behind the Destructor, and isn't really worth bringing. However, I do hope it gets buffs, and I think that it very well could. Anyways, I've been Spoons Rattling. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.